Hello and welcome to another discussion with Amit and Naroop in conjunction with the AOP, where we discuss color in the creative industry. Today we are super excited to have Francis Augusto with us for this talk. A huge talented photographer. We've been following his work for a while, love his style, love what he does. I'm just going to read out a little bit about Francis and introduce him, and we're going to get cracking on this discussion. So, a visual storyteller, Francis Augusto captures his subjects in their most honest environments. His love of people is emphasized in his portraiture and reportage work, where the mutual trust between photographer and subject is clearly visible. Francis's work covers a range of disciplines, from live events to photos from his travels. His personal work focuses on visual stories of experiences which make us human. Francis, thank you so much for your time, man. Thank you for being involved. How are you doing today?
I'm very well. I feel very honoured that you're talking to both of you, man.
Oh, no, it's our pleasure, man. It's our pleasure.
It's great to have you on here. We've met before already, right?
Yeah.
When I saw the name Francis Augusto, I was like, I know this name, and I saw your work, and I recognized it. Where did we meet? Do you remember?
I think it's an event where you two were speaking. I'm pretty sure it was at this old church building, and either I was taking photos, or I was in the audience, and I just think I appreciated how real you both were. There wasn't I'm playing up to this, so there was no real code switching. Yeah. You two were just speaking from the heart, and you were showing your work that you've done. And I think what was really nice is that there was what you said resonated with some of my stories. And then I'm seeing the photos that you've taken, and I'm thinking, wow, these guys did this. Not only are they real, but also incredibly talented. And they could be people that I grew up with, you know what I'm saying? So then it's not as if these people are so far away from the people that I were friends with when I was growing up, that I'm friends with now. And it makes that the possibilities of getting to that place.
Do you know, I think it was the Making London
bit more
talk is where we met you.
That is it, yeah.
No, I think you were taking pictures, and what I noticed is your energy. Like, there are obviously lots of people taking pictures of events, but I remember we were in the hallway, and Francis was taking pictures, remember? And you were on fire, bro. Like, you were all up in there, you chatting to everyone, and you were directing and everything. And I think I remember saying to you, I said, listen, man, I need to take your number, because we could do with a guy like you in the future, man. And here we are, man. Privileged to be,
man. Joe, that makes us really proud, man, to kind of see your work, and obviously you're represented by a great agent and producing great work, working for big brands, man. So that really makes us proud, man, that we can see that growth and transition, man. It's great. And this, that's reminding me, I totally can place where we've met. But I'm sure everyone who is viewing this and listening to it wants to hear more about you, man. Your story, how you got into photography, how you came from Angola and came here and managed to make it as a represented photographer in the commercial industry. So it's a huge achievement. Please tell us your journey.
Okay, long story short, so I was born in Angola during the Civil War. I don't know how much you both know about Angola. So it's a multiple century old country. Used to be a country with both the Congos. Many years ago, it was hunter-gatherers. And during the last 40, 50 years before the new millennium, there was a civil war for a while. We left, me, my mum, and my older brother, we left when I was about 6. Had the story of many asylum seekers where you get somewhere and you don't speak the language at all, and you're trying to figure yourself out whilst figuring out this new kind of terrain. And for a long time, I couldn't speak a lot of English, like I said. So all I did was just observe and listen and watch things happen. And I think in some ways that prepared me for what I do now. And just being able to be in this space and see what's happening and being able to capture it. And for a while, I had the kind of the upbringing, the life that many people from different ethnic minorities have, where you've got cousins all over the place. You go to cousin's house here, auntie's house, and you're getting slapped by your auntie because you're trying to steal the meat from the pan, and you're going out with your friends and everything, and you're doing all these things. And I think I'm very, very privileged and happy that I had that, because that's kind of built a level of kind of humility towards my work and towards people. When in my teenage years, I'd say I was probably a mid-level delinquent, where in school, when there's people, your brethren who are they're like 1 or 2 strikes away from going Feltham or going prison, right? But you're not that in deep of it, and you don't want to, but you know them and you hang around with them. So you could either help someone or get in trouble. So I was always in the kind of the mid section of that. In school, I had a teacher called Mr. Dines, who was this Irish art teacher. A lot of people were scared of him because he was one of those teachers that loved to shout. But if he was in his lesson and you got along with him, he was amazing, because you'd always come in and he'd be playing some kind of blues, some kind of soul music. So this is a white Irish teacher, right? Really? And I'm going in there and I'm listening to Nina Simone and the Temptations, and he's like encouraging this idea of we have these things that we have to do, and these kind of art, impressionism, all these things, but the idea essentially is about how much can you see what you want to create and then put it in this kind of drawing or this paper, and we have conversations and everything. And I think in another sense that also built my idea of creation and where I look at kind of personal projects when I do personal projects, and how I approach it in the sense of this is what's actually happening, and how can I take this real thing and create an art piece or a project and take photos that allows other people who are not experiencing this exact thing feel a level of kind of affinity to it. And then a really good friend of mine who I still think is probably the most talented human being that I know. His name's Jake Buckley. He's a gaffer and spark and a poet and a rapper and a documentary photographer. He's so many things, and he's I'm still inspired. When he was 14, he started to take pictures at school. And this was new to me in the sense of I've never seen anyone take pictures that's like on a camera that's not an old school film camera, right? And he's taking pictures of us at school, and these are amazing, right? I'm 15, 16, and he's taking photos that now I look back and I look at some photos from professionals, it's the same level of quality. That was the first time that I can think back and go, okay, photography is interesting, I might do that. And then fast forward, I'm 17 now, and another friend of mine, Aaron, who's a model now, and he's so much more than a model. And he's also studying photography at college. And he asked me to go in with a few of my friends to go in the studio to get some photos done. Like, surprise, surprise, it's the one and only time somebody asked me to be a model. I don't know what happened, And so then, but what I was in love with was this like process of him talking to us, taking pictures, and then asking to change or doing something else. And I was just like, you know what? I might do this. So I go to my great uncle, and I kind of cajole him into making my mum like want to buy a camera for me. So those two put money together, get me a Canon 500D, and I get it, and I'm just the rest of that year in college and throughout uni, I'm just taking photos for fun. And that's like one side. And the other side is I was 13, I was 12 or 13, coming off from school. I get rushed by about 15, 20 boys at Vauxhall bus station. And I go home and I'm like angry and I want to do something about it. I said, I'm mid-level delinquent, not fully into it, but I know people who are. And I want to do something. And I'm on the way home and I hear my name being called out from the estates. So at this time I was living in Wandsworth, specifically Patmore Estate. And if anyone knows the area, it's not the nicest place, but it's a wonderful place as well. It's one of those like juxtapositions. I hear my name being called out, and it's somebody called Roger, who's a youth worker in the area. He sees that I play football, asks me if I want to play for his team. I'm like, cool, I'll do it. I go to the first training session and I have a little like scuffle with one of the guys. Roger pulls me away, takes me to the youth center and say, you can't be doing that. You're more than that. And that time I was having some rough times with my dad, and he became a kind of father figure, older brother kind of energy for a while. And from 13 for me, in terms of just seeing what else I could do. So taking me on residential trips, going to Parliament, opened my eyes out to the world. And I think when you grow up in a certain area, whether it's London or Birmingham or Manchester, or any part of the world that you are quite closed off, you either just go to one place, where it's that school or your auntie's house or a party, and then you come back and you really just stay in this like circle of kind of places that you're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. You don't really have an idea of everything else that's possible. And what Roger did was just show me you could also do this. And that kind of, the social capital that I was kind of learning from him was incredible. And it's only when you get older that you realize these little things and how impactful they are. And then 16, I got qualified as a youth worker, and I was just working with young people. I was taking photos at college and uni. I was also working as youth worker and youth mentor as well. And then I'm 23, in this like pre-quarter life crisis situation, having no clue what to do, wanting to take photos but not feeling like it's sustainable, but at the same time not feeling as if I've got the same energy to be a youth worker anymore or work in a youth sector because of like a lot of the bad things that's happening, both political and within the charity as well. And out of nowhere, I meet this woman who is South American and is a filmmaker slash cultural curator by chance through a mentor of mine called James Dello, who manages Soapbox, which is it's a youth center in Old Street. I meet her and like, guys, I've never left a meeting so energized by somebody. She epitomizes all the things that you think about when you think about an artist, in terms of her love for her art is everything. And she just kind of made me realize that, yes, I want to get paid and everything, but like, am I creating the things that I'm really, really proud of, or will that take years to get to that point? And when I started taking photos, what did I want to do? And am I still working towards that thing? And she spoke about her life in general as well. And I just listened throughout the whole meeting, and I just like kept on asking questions and picking at her. And I left, this was 2016, left the meeting and felt quite resolute that I need to leave my job. November came in, and I handed my notice at work. And my manager was amazing, Pamela. She was like, I'm so happy for you, you'll take photos. So like, I'm gassed for you to do what you really want to do. And then she asked me, so like, you're going into the Christmas holidays, you got a month off, like what you got planned? And at that point I realized I had no plans. You know, I didn't know what I was going to do at all. When 2017 came along, I was like, shit, okay, I guess I have to figure this out. Luckily, at that time, I had started connections with a agency called Liberty, and I became a creative in residence there for 3 months. And I looked at that time. I'm 23 now. What do I need to do to get to a certain place? And knowing that, like, reading all the kind of self-help books and everything, some are helpful, some are not. I had to think about understanding that I am not a mid-level, or I'm not expert at all. I'm coming in at the beginning at 23. What do I need to do? I need to come in at 8 o'clock, 8:30, whatever time is opening time, leave at 6, and do as much as I can in those hours. And sometimes I don't do much, but creating that habit of just, you're getting up, you're working, you're getting up, you're working, you're getting up and working, and trying to build new habits that I didn't really have before. Okay. And that year was shit because like I didn't get any money, right? Like jobs came in sparingly. Luckily, mom is incredibly kind and understanding once the conversation is had. Right? She's an old school African woman and wanted me to do like a job that's stable and gets a pension and everything. And then I tell her I'm going to be a creative. She's like, boy, you bar. But at the same time, I just had to explain to her, I can't do that. I can't do 9 to 5 and feel comfortable. And it took convincing, and she just gave me that time. 2018 came along, and I felt like things were moving in a certain way that felt comfortable and felt like progressing. And then eventually, slowly, money started coming in, work started to look good. And it was only in 2018, after I did Love Box Festival, I looked back at the photos and I realized like, shit, I'm not bad at this thing. Before then, I'm just working, right? And some photos come out nice and whatever, but I'm in the process of just getting on with things. And then I think about what do I do next? All I can do is continue doing this, and hopefully maybe there'll be one day where something clicks and I know what the next stage is. And so I kept on doing it. And then 2019 came along, and I think what was interesting is when I got signed, so this was this time last year around September, and I don't think when you're in the midst of creating and you're doing your 10,000 hours and you're doing most of the stuff that you really love, you don't think about it too much. You just do it, put it up, and you carry on. And I never came in with the energy of, I want to get 1,000, like 10,000 followers on Instagram and be Instagram famous and be one of those influencer photographers. I just loved creating. My inspiration is Vivian Maya and Gordon Parks, like Ian Cunningham, like William Klein, and all these photographers who are just about taking photos of real people. And so when I take my photos, when I do my projects, when it's not paid, it's about what stories am I telling of real people that somebody else can identify with. The first project that I did was a Humans of New York copycat in London for about a year and a half. And I was just running around London, meeting random people, taking pictures. And I did another personal project, was about like people's experience on the tube and different photos that somebody can look at and go, oh, I've been in that situation. I've been lost. And I did another one about home, about how like home has two different situations, whether it's very much the practical, these are things that you see at home, or somebody is my home and they make me feel comfortable, right? And so then 2019, I get signed, and I'm looking back at my work, I'm like, shit, okay, like I've worked and I've got a catalog, and somebody else is telling me that this is of a certain quality.
Did your agent come to you, Francis, or did you approach your agent?
Yeah, in terms of how I met the agent. So a friend of mine, Basma, who I credit this whole situation happening, we met at a workspace called The Ministry, and we were just talking, and she was asking if I knew any photographers who do sport photography, because a friend who's an agent was looking for someone to do some sports for a job. I was like, I don't really know many people, but I've got some photos from like events and stuff that I shot. I'll just send it to her. And she was like, yeah, this is her email, send it and tell me what you think. So her name is Amanda, that's the agent. And I sent her my photos from some Adidas stuff that I did for Hill and Norton, and another event as well. And she was like, we like this, and plus like these other photos that you took, Francis. So let's have a meeting. And we had a meeting, and then like after about a month and a half of just back and forths, we got signed. And I think, like I said, like that was the moment that in 2017, 18, I was waiting for, maybe, and I didn't know it was going to happen, but this moment where you go, okay, this is what I want to do next. And these are the things that I want to get to, both from being honest, from a standpoint of getting more money for jobs, obviously, but also doing this will allow me to do personal projects that I could never have like fathomed before getting signed, right? Like right now I can do a job, God willing, and get paid the same amount that I would have to work 2-3 months for 2 years ago.
Same, yeah.
Right?
Understand that.
And what that does, it allows me to go, okay, now I can spend a week or 2 weeks crafting out this idea for a personal project and get it done, and not feel so worried about taking a month out of not working. Because for me, honestly, like I'd love if all I do is just personal projects and portraits and stories, and people pay me a lot of money to just tell people's stories and stuff. But that's not how the world works at all times, right? And you have to figure out some stuff. You have to adapt. And then we're here during a lockdown too, and got new ideas and kind of again another resolution going towards the next few years, and trying to work them out and seeing how we can make it happen.
So there's so many points in your story which is similar to our story in terms of you just kind of got on with it. You just kind of put the work out there, and then you weren't too worried about anything else. You just wanted to create. And then at one point you look back and you're like, wow, I'm kind of good at this stuff. Is this exactly the same for us? We just love the art of creation. And then we suddenly looked at our catalog and we thought, wow, we've done this much work and it's actually quite good. And the other thing is this idea of you set yourself a day, you have to work between these hours to these hours. It wasn't like, oh, I might do it some days, oh, I don't feel like doing it. You said, no, I have to treat this like a job. And that's exactly what we did. I remember when we bought our studio, we used to get there for 7 a.m. because we couldn't find parking anywhere else at that time. So we'd get there at 7 every morning and we'd leave at like 7 at night. And it would be that constant hustle, you know, to just and we'd sit in the studio, we'd be like, okay, so what do we do now? Like, we've got the studio that took us 2 years to build. We didn't know how to get the work in, but we just wanted to do something. So a lot of parallels there.
Yeah.
What I'd want to discuss with you is that we've heard your whole journey, which is fascinating. How much did your color play a role in that journey? Like, did you face any discrimination? Did you face any prejudice? Did you feel it inhibited you? Because from what it seems like, your journey was actually quite quick in terms of when you decided to quit your job to getting an agent. And there wasn't a long amount of time. It happened quite quickly. For us, it took us like maybe 9 years to get an agent, right? For you, it happened a lot quicker. So did it play a part in your color? Did it work for you? Or what are your thoughts?
I think like there's a myriad of ways of like answering that question. One of those is the reason my color played a role is the initial understanding that somebody from my area that looks like me, who's black, can be a photographer that takes photos of stuff that isn't events, right? And cool shit. I think that was the first thing. And decide like the urban photographer and the idea of what the urban photographer looks like. He's taking photos of this rapper and that rapper. And normally it's associated with somebody that looks like me, that maybe talks like me. I think also I'm 6'2", big and black. And I think sometimes what's happened is I've been in situations where I maybe want to meet someone or I want to have a conversation, but the look of me immediately pulls somebody away, right? Yeah. And then there's other stuff where I guess because of like my mum and some of my family members, this idea of diligence and what it means to work hard and kind of going past the thing that's possible is built in me. I've seen my mum go through it. Coming in as asylum seekers, my mum had no choice but to work, right? And there's not much time for feeling sorry for myself and being really upset and letting that put me down. So I guess a part of me, whilst acknowledging that my color has had a role in initially getting to a place where I'm here, or even in fact, like if I'm really, really real, for me not to be dead or in prison by 16, 17 or 18 because of the area that we lived in. And the things that was going on. Even if you wasn't on road or wasn't a gangster, you might get hit because you're just a civilian and you're just going about your business and somebody sees you and you look like somebody who they want to kill and then so they kill you. Or you're in an area and there's police and they think you're associated with gangs and they come and get you, right? So like there's inherent things within a society that puts people that look like us in a certain scenario and you have to work through it. I guess for me, one, like I than my mum and what she's been through, my whole family, to Roger, who is a Bangladeshi person who is called Roger and lives in Southwest London and is the biggest G in the world, who knows everybody in the kind of the Wandsworth area and respected by everyone, who took me under his wing and said, no, we're going to do this, 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 and you're going to go past all of these things, and showed me what kindness means, and the kind of kindness that doesn't think about what I get in return. Not ever did I had a conversation and he said, okay, now it's time for you to give me back. It was always, I'm going to give, and if you give me, that's your choice. And so the Roger and those two, and then I think I'm just someone that's quite resolute. So like if something's happening and I'm not liking it, I either say something or I'm quiet and I figure out how to get through it. I'm either going to die or I'm going to win. It's one of those things. And I've looked at like how I move in terms of life that way. I'm either going to like fail and then that's it, I can't do it anymore, or I'm going to continue and just going to like go through until the point where I feel I've done enough. There is no time for me to go, this is incredibly bad, I'm just going to stop because I can't go anymore. I have to physically be stopped. And with that, and that kind of, there's the part of my story which I kind of skipped over, where in 2017, I was so stressed and trying to work so much, I got vertigo. And this was like a couple weeks before a big job with Google came in, and I literally couldn't work. I collapsed, and I didn't get knocked out or anything, but I just couldn't move at all. I don't know if you've ever had vertigo. It's like really, really bad hangover, essentially. I think now it's interesting because the kind of jobs that came through after BLM, that's probably the most prominent and kind of most evident time where my color has been really, really in my face. And I've had to have a proper conversation in terms of work. Because life in general, my color is always in there. Whether I'm being arrested or somebody's stopping me or somebody is calling me the N-word or like I've had racial situations, that's life. But in work, this year after BLM kind of sparked, my agent was coming back to me saying, this client wants to do some work. And I said no, because all they're doing is it's just performative. As an agency, the agency I'm represented, they can't be lying and not doing anything and like just chilling during this time, right? And they got to be doing stuff for me to continue. And I think that's another conversation that I've tried to have with a few photographers around ownership. And if you're represented, like you're cash cow for this agency. And if they're not doing something that makes you happy, why are you still there? And so I've had a conversation with them about the Black experience and how much we've had to, like, as Black photographers, not get jobs because of our color or the way our names sound to some people, and get looked over because somebody who's cis and white and a man is just there and it's easier to get to, and how much work that takes to get to a point where you become somebody's go-to. And then also when you get to that point, how do you become a gatekeeper as well? And then you help another photographer. You go, this person might just be a bit better, and they'll take the opportunity and fly from it. And I've tried to do that as much as possible. Like I'm not in any great position to be able to do that, but I also feel it's a level of my responsibility to be able to try and do that to some people.
You know, I'd like to hear both of your opinions on this, right? Because what you said is really interesting, and it gets a lot of people who are passionate about this creative and color kind of topic. It's quite divisive. So hearing from what you said, you basically worked hard, you got a tenacious personality, you're determined, your struggles from your childhood and the fact that your mum worked so hard and the fact that you had a mentor, which is so important, all steered you and created this character in you that you were just resolute and determined, I'm going to do this. No matter what, it's going to happen, right? Yeah. Some people would argue and say, well, that's just too simple an answer as to explain why Francis is doing it. What about all those other people who've got that same attributes who are from a minority? How come they're not kind of making it? And I always I think that's an interesting point. But I also think I know so many white photographers who don't make it either, right? Who just don't make it either, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe. And I mean, I want to hear your point. Maybe is it is it an individual case that if you're is it the Rocky Balboa situation where if you're Rocky and you want to make it somehow, somewhere you're going to get there, right? Regardless of what you look like. Or is it that, yes, just like how your mum and my grandparents and my family, they come to a different country, they're from a different background, they just have to work harder. That's just the way it is. We're immigrants in this country. We have to do it. What is it? Is it an individual thing, or is it a more of a color thing that no matter what you look like, you're always going to have to work harder? Like, you understand where I'm coming from? There's two sides of it. What do you guys like?
Yeah, so I think it's a really valid point. I think, to sum it up, I would say culture is more powerful than strategy. And by that, I mean, we can give 20 people the same plan, white guy, brown guy, black guy, everything. We can give them all the same formula, work hard, put the hours in, network, this, that. The differentiating factor, in my opinion, will be how those things get done. So, for example, we could send Francis into meeting and 10 other guys into meeting, where everyone's gone into meeting. But it's the way that you conduct in that meeting and the way that you are remembered. And I think, Francis, is down to your personality. I think you've made all the right moves. You've gone in exactly the right direction. I think that you are on another level when it comes to communicating and winning people over. And I think that's allowed you to progress quicker than other people. I think you're aware that you're a man of color, but I don't think you let that hold you back in any way. And I think that you can give anyone the formula, but it's how they use it and how they play it that will be the differentiating factor. Loads of photographers put out similar work. Why does some get picked and some not get picked? What is the other factor? And I always say, I think there's two reasons why people will thrive and be successful as photographers and why they will get commissioned is, one, can they deliver first-class results? And two, am I going to like this person and want to spend a day with them? And I think it's that second factor that is perhaps the gold, because loads of people can deliver a job. Why are only some getting picked? And I think your agent sees what we see in you. They see this guy with amazing skill set, but a level of hunger and no likability and no complacency. And I think that's the difference, and I think that everyone can be given this formula, but it's how you play it. We can all follow a recipe from a cookbook. It's going to come out different when it comes to tasting the cake. Some were cooked with love, some were rushed, some tried to copy it but got it wrong. But that's my take on it. Some
people take that recipe totally and create a whole new form.
Yeah, exactly. I like that analogy.
If I'm honest, the time I spent with you today, I've seen all I need to see, and I 100% know you're on the way up. No doubt about it, because you've got a level of hunger about you, but you've just got a wicked level of kindness and humility and fun. And you're honest, man. You're honest, and I think people love to deal with people who are honest, and I think that's, in my opinion, why I think Francis is flying. And I think, as I said, formula blueprint can be given to anyone. It's how you deliver it, how you execute it. It makes a difference.
What's your thoughts on it, Francis?
Amit, man, those are some really wise words, and I agree to for the most part as well. I really do. I think in terms of why some people get there and some people don't, things is a few things. One, your work is not good enough.
Yeah. Sometimes.
And I think this is a conversation we was having in the other panel, and we didn't get into it. But it's well and good you working really, really hard, and you can be the hardest worker in the room. But if your photos are not that good and you can't see why they're not that good and see why you need to change it, and that level of kind of introspection isn't there, it's going to be hard to get to the next level. And I think a lot of people don't have this energy of, how do I get better? What do I need to do to get to the next level, right? And I think for me, from conversations I've had with my youth workers and mentors to conversations I had with friends, I studied sociology at uni. So the idea of always thinking and always theorizing is something that's in here. So I think that's one side. Your work is not good enough. And some people are not honest with themselves enough to say that, right? And then this comes in what you said a bit, and Amit, is the kind of interpersonal skills, because a lot of the time the opportunities that we get, we might not get it immediately, but we might have met somebody a few years ago, or a few months ago, or a week ago for a coffee or an event or something. And like you said, they didn't like you, or you didn't make the best impression. And so before they even look at your work, they'll disregard you because of that. And you're losing out on so much opportunities just because of that. Right? And that likability factor. And then I think also sometimes there's the conversations around like, because there's somebody I was dating, and I was having this conversation around like, what makes Kobe Kobe, or what makes LeBron LeBron? Because everyone else is playing basketball, right? Of course, there's a physical level of like, LeBron is huge, but there's been many 6'9" big guys. But it's that, like, for some people who want to get there, it's an obsession. And can you obsess about getting to a certain place and also put the action in? You can have an obsession and really want to get successful at something or become a certain position, but you're not really putting in that work, right? Or you're not putting that work at a certain level and then being really critical with yourself. And then there's the other conversation about likability as well. So I think it's a marriage of all those things together, and also there's like a reality, there's like luck. You might just be at an event by chance and meet the photo editor for Stella magazine, right? And then you're there, and then you're having a conversation, and then next thing you know, they're following you, and then you're taking photos for Time magazine or whoever else, because you was, like you said, I think the last point around like complacency and being able to like be competent at your work and go, I've got this job and I'm going to do the best job ever for this, if it's worth £200 or £2 million. And then that work is so sick, when it comes out and somebody else sees that, you're going to be like, I want him, or I want her, I want them to do our project, because that's exactly what we want. But that's because you might have just luckily met someone. Like, for example, here, somebody might see this conversation and realize, okay, cool, maybe I need to switch some stuff up. And then they meet somebody post-lockdown, and then they just fly. Like that 17-year-old who's from, I think, Nigeria, is a photographer. I always forget his name. But his work is not only amazing, but he produced the work just in the same time where that kind of fine art portraiture stuff was really flying. And then he did some stuff with FKA Twigs, and he's gone. Like, he's gone now. There's no stopping him from being successful. And I think sometimes these things happen. Like, if we look at the example of Vivian Maier, she never really got to see her flowers. She's one of the greatest street photographers that ever lived. And her photos are incredible. And sometimes it's just like one thing that I've got into during lockdown is stoicism. And understanding that things are as they are. And like, you either adapt and do better, or you just fall, and then you can't control everything.
Dude, you know what? I think you...
Do you know what? If we had a child with that name,
I think you'd be a third member, man.
100%.
Because we're all about the stoicism and we believe in all that stuff. And do you know what I think is really important, what people overlook, right? So Amit and I will meet loads of photographers, and immediately, regardless of their race or their gender, we'll know whether they're going to make it or not, right? Just by their personality, their level of determination, their enthusiasm. I remember back in the day, for example, I'm going a little bit off topic, I met Ed Sheeran.
Go for it, man. I love listening.
But my brother's a singer, right? I met this guy who ended up being Ed Sheeran, but I met him backstage, and he was talking to me for at least a good 45 minutes and telling me how he was living on a sofa, how he was hustling. He didn't look like a pop star, but he had this spark. And I said to my brother, I go, dude, you should get that guy signed, man, because he's going to kill it. My brother's like, yo, no, he doesn't look like a pop star. Next thing I see him a few years later is everywhere, but he had that star quality. And I looked past everything else, right? Let's think how the pop-in music industry discriminates. You have to be good looking or whatever, back then especially, and he still made it, right? And so now we meet people and we're like, that person hasn't got that spark, man, to really get them to the level where they want to be. Because what a lot of people don't realize is, like, getting signed to an agent is like playing for a Premiership football team. There's so few agents, and they can only have a certain amount of photographers. So yes, there might only be 200 people who are represented, or 250 in the whole country, right? Because this is not enough people. So and the fact that you're signed, we're signed, there's other photographers who we know who are of color who are signed. It means it can get done. It can get done, but how many people have got that spark? That's something about them which is just like, you can't even put a finger on it. It's this natural ability that, you know, you're just born to do this, and not everyone is. And we've done masterclasses, we've mentored, we've taught, we've coached a huge amount of people, and very few of them have that little quality, man, what it really takes. And that's in every field. And then race and gender, then that's just another thing that can stop some people. But really, like I said, we're examples that it can happen. But one thing I think that for us gave us an advantage is this: we had access to equipment because Amit's dad had digital cameras when we started. Your great uncle and your mum bought you your camera, but there is this issue that a lot of creators of color come from poor families, right? And they can't afford the equipment. Even a decent DSLR, $1,000, right, with a good lens, right? You need to have that, otherwise you are going to really struggle, right? No matter what your phone can do, you're not going to really make it doing your phone. So what would you say to those people who say, look, man, I just can't afford this? You know, how do I go about doing it? Because we say, look, you got to hustle, you got to get a job. But then that almost feels like a bit like, no, like that's a bit rude to say this, you've got to work at it. But that it plays a major factor, access to equipment. Have you had that where you've spoken to people who say, look, I just can't get the kit, man. I can't produce the work. Have you had that experience with anybody you've spoken to? And do you have any solutions to that?
So, I do quickly want to go back to what you said, because Naroop, everything you said is so on point. It's the performance, right? Like, we're both signed, and there's other people of color who are signed to different agencies and are sick photographers. But are they performing, right? Like, if a job comes in, are they doing that job and doing it well? When you get signed to a Premier League team and you're the star signing, or you're one of the players that play in first team, are you playing well? Right? Because it's easy to get, it's not easy, but you can get signed because you have a level of talent, but can you maintain it? Because after a while, you'll get dropped.
Yeah.
And then you're no longer like that person. Like the perfect example, Andy Carroll went to Liverpool, and then of course he's injured, but like the skill level isn't there. Whereas you get other players, you get signed, and we know that story. But I think with Ed Sheeran is that thing again where he got signed, but he also performed at this ridiculous level for years. And now he can like do whatever he wants to do. Yeah. And in answer to your question, so the one thing that I like have been professing so much about is Fat Llama. Like, that's helped me out so many times in terms of renting equipment for £35, which is like a Mamio RZ67 that I can't afford to buy outright, but I can rent it for a few days, maximize those days, take those photos, and then release that. And those photos, what will happen is, if it's good enough, somebody will see it and want me to do work exactly like that. And I just told them, can we put into the equipment item and pay for it? Then the client will pay for it. So I think that's the first like advice I'd give to anyone who can't afford a £500 camera or a £1,000 camera use, or towards renting equipment from Fat Llama for a few days. And then those days that you have it for, can you get friends to come round and you do a shoot, whether it's on location or somebody's building, and you make a makeshift studio and you shoot. And once you've done those shoots, you put it out, and then you holler at some people and go, hey, I've done this. Do you want to get this done? And when a client comes in and goes, hey, we love your work, we want you to do these photos for us, when you do your budget, you go, okay, this is how much for my time. And if you put edit time as well, you put edit time, then do an item online where it goes equipment, and that equipment price is for you to use your equipment or for you to pay to rent your equipment again. So you put £100, and that £100 goes towards you paying for a week's worth of it. And you maximize that week, because you might only do a shoot for one day, but that £100 allowed you to do it for 5 days. The rest of those 4 days, you just bring out some work. And that's what I've done. Like, so right now, I've got 5D Mark IV. That's just because years of like doing what I'm doing. But I haven't got a film camera, but I'm really getting into film photography. So once in a while, I'll do a test shoot with the film camera and just like get that done. And then the client will go, we love that. And I just use that for it. And I think that's the first thing of like you maximizing rental equipment. And I think what you said in terms of potentially just telling somebody to get a job, like you might feel rude, but it's the truth. Like we can't get things that if we can't afford them. So if you have to, like after my uncle got me that first camera, everything after that has been my own money that I've used that I could have put in to save or put into some funds or some like other stuff. But I've put it straight, and then everything that I've had has put it straight back into like buying new equipment, because I know that there's equipment that I specifically want and I'm working towards that. So like specifically use Fat Llama as much as possible because they got really low prices of rental equipment. And then 2, if you can get a small time job or something that pays your way, do it. And don't be like, I think a lot of people have a shame in terms of like doing some side jobs or side hustles to get you to, don't be, there's no shame. If my best friends know me, I am shameless. Like, I'm a Man United supporter, and I'll tell you Man United would win this year. And I know they're not going to win this year, but I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just, you have to kind of put that pride to the side and think about what is more important. Somebody looking at you and like not even know who you are, and you feeling some kind of shame towards it, or you building something that's going to get you into the place that you want to. What does that mean? You do this thing.
Can I say something which can be seen as controversial? Right? I think there's having pressure is a really good thing. Like we had pressure because Amit's parents basically bought our studio for us and gave us the money. We had pressure to deliver because we had to pay the bills. So we'd work do anything to get the money. So, you hear these stories about these businessmen who max out credit cards. They do whatever they can to get the equipment. But then guess what? That pressure that I've got to pay this back makes them work. And I think I'm not saying everyone should go and max out credit cards. I'm not saying, but find a way to put pressure on yourself that you know that I have to do this to pay that back. Or you borrow money from someone, but you have to pay them back. And then that will make you work and work and work. So I'm not encouraging anyone to get in debt, but I hope you kind of get the idea of this element of pressure. What would you say, Amit?
I agree. I think it comes down to fundamentally investing in yourself, which you've done. And I remember we had to make sacrifices. All of my friends, I think I was 21, we were going to go to Iron Apple that summer, and I was like, Iron Apple, all camera equipment and studio mortgage, no brainer. I was committed. So I didn't do holidays, man, for years, but long term, I ended up flying around the world 5-6 years later. So through work. So I think that you've nailed this so hard. I actually don't think I've met another photographer who I share as much in common with as you. And hand on my heart, like literally.
And I think it's encouraging.
You feel it as well.
It's encouraging because it shows that we're not just the ones who just say the same thing. That you've achieved a success and you've got the same philosophy. So if we're all saying it, then there must be truth in that. And it sounds too simple to some people. Work hard, believe in yourself, keep doing it, persistent. But you know how hard those things are to do. They're hard things to do, bro. When someone says
as well.
I was thinking about this in the shower the other day, right? You know how you just think about stuff in the shower. And I was like, man, the amount of no's and rejections we've got is incredible. I used to write treatments and music videos, dude, right? For us. I think I wrote over 150 treatments and probably booked around 15 music videos. and each treatment is 2 days of work, not paid. Not paid.
But what did you learn? What did that teach you?
I know how to write treatments like this, ideas like this. So the reward was there, monetary, but I would do it again in a heartbeat. Because now Amit says to me, Naroop, or a pitch comes in, an agent says that you got to put this together. Boom. All right, let's do it. I know how to do it. I've done nearly 200 of them.
Do you know what? I think the key is to look at your business like a piggy bank, right? And as long as you're adding something to it every day, that's the way I see it, right? Even if it's not money, so you're building assets into your business, be it contacts, you've increased your portfolio, you bought some new gear, every single day, small actions. There is no one magical formula. The raw truth is, there are a lot more photographers than there are jobs at the top level. That's a fact. because that's why so many agents, so many people go for the same job. And I think that in order to get to the top, you need to follow the formula that you're working on, that we're trying to do as well. But it's all going to come down to small steps. There's not going to be this one magical job. I remember when we started doing CD covers, right? So when we were doing music artists, when we started shooting, so we'd do like, you know, Jay Sean, Tyre Cruz, Rex 32, and I had a theory, and my theory was, all right, this CD is now sitting in HMV, and it says by Amit and Naroop when you open it. I'm like, man's getting ready, sitting by the phone. I'm thinking, oh, man, people are gonna call, or you shot Jay Sean's cover, or record label gonna call. I'm thinking like 60, 70,000 of these CDs have been pressed. Why has nothing happened? And, you know, we all have these ideas when we start out, and we're like, that's actually quite ludicrous now to think that we would book something from that. But you know what, man? You need to be thick-skinned, man. Like, you got to have some next level of undying belief that you're going to make it. Otherwise, none of this makes sense.
And that goes regardless of color.
Yeah.
Just like, you know.
Yeah. And I think I want to add something as well that I think is incredibly important, and both of you touched on it, and it's, for me, it's become incredibly important in the last 2 years, is your mental health, right? Yeah. And it's attached yourself to what you said in the group in terms of writing those treatments, and then now you can whip it out really quickly. But on top of that, it's those no's built a level of kind of resilience towards these negative emotions or the reactions. Same as like thinking you're going to create, doing all these cover shots, and then you're going to get calls and you don't get the calls, then you're mentally becoming stronger. Our mental health is deteriorated, especially during lockdown, deteriorated ridiculously. Totally. And it's something that I'm very fortunate to have had people that I've had conversations with that has helped me. But at the same time, just having these conversations with myself as well has really, because like 2 years ago, I was in a really bad space, and it was the first time I had properly thought about where am I mentally, and then I had to work. The last 2 years has been a lot of work on that. And I think especially younger photographers who get into it, we talked earlier around like photographers who don't make it and who are struggling even harder or for longer as well, and how they see themselves really damaging. And I think that's like, and that's where the whole thick skin comes from, where we've had to be that way because of all the things that we've been through. And now we're in a space where, even though there's moments where we're very tender and sensitive, but we've had to really, really build a mental kind of castle that's fortified. Like ain't nothing coming through that's going to cripple us again, but at the same time we're taking care of ourselves mentally. And I think it sounds like for you, you've done that.
Yeah, do you know what I think is really important as well is this sense of having a level head, right? Because I think what happens is this industry and creative industries in general you get extremes high and extremes low, right? In your right? Yeah. And what we've tried to do now is we've always got a level head. Like we've got a couple of opportunities that we're working on that could transform us, take us from where we are now to like the top of the top. But are we getting excited about it? No, because they could fall like this. And I think what happened is that what happens a lot of people, especially when they see stuff on Instagram, they see people doing these big shoots and they're thinking, damn, why didn't I get it? That if an opportunity comes, they get so excited. And then when it doesn't happen, it just deflates them. Whereas if you just think, well, this opportunity's come, but think about a level head, it could easily just go like this. It's so many factors can stop it happening. I'm happy and I'm grateful to the universe that this opportunity has come. But until I don't see that confirmation, I'm keeping a level head. I'm just working. And guess what? If that happens, bonus, brilliant, right? If it doesn't, I'm still kind of. And I think, and especially I suffered that a lot. Amit's always had more of a level head. I was always like, yo, dude, if you get this job, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and then it doesn't come through. And I'm like, dude, I'm gonna beat someone up, right? Now you get an opportunity, and he says to me, yeah, but this is happening, or agent or email, great. Amazing. But until something doesn't happen, I'm not even thinking about it until it gets confirmed. And that's helped me maintain a better mood. Yeah. And also just allows me to focus on the stuff that we're working on now. You know what I mean? So I think if people can do that, especially, you know, creators of color, when we see an opportunity, man, we're like, yeah, man, we can make our mark. But I think maintaining a level head is really important. But dude, we're gonna have to wrap up there. I want to ask you for like a final comments, man. your philosophy, your ideas as to what can get done to really transform this landscape and attract more creators of color. Do you have some kind of bullet points, some ideas that you think are really important that can help encourage more people like you to come into this industry?
Like it's an old school thing of you got to see it to believe it, right? So I think seeing more people of color in powerful positions of people who empower somebody who's in a senior position who can make things happen and who's either a non-binary person, a woman, or a person of color, and they're in that position creating opportunities. That's the first thing, and I think that's incredibly important. That's like not had conversations about fee and being kind of transparent about what money's coming in. Like rate transparency is incredibly important. We haven't really spoken about that, but I think being open and honest about how much I'm getting and how much somebody else is getting, somebody who's coming through can be a bit more kind of confident about, okay, I need to do a few more jobs and then maybe I can increase my price. And I think those two things. And thirdly, like really good quality work and more conversations like this. And I think like the more varied creatives are in terms of what they output, I think the better. Where if somebody is here doing GQ and then like kind of he's on the other side, like Adama, who does amazing work for kind of portraiture work as well. And then there's other fine art photographers as well. And I think having varied people in different positions creating different work, those few things I think is like what can help drive the conversation and the practicalities of where we are kind of forward.
Amazing, man. Amit, any points you want to add?
Do you know what,
to that?
man? You've hit the nail on the head, and I think more people need to meet you and know about you, man. I really feel you've got something special, and I choose my words carefully, man, because I always look for people that are memorable, and trust me, man, you know, you made that impression on us 3 years ago, and here we are now, and I know the future's looking bright for you and all of us. So thank you so much.
Thank you, man,
for your time, brother.
And once we can all start hanging out in groups together, we want to do more stuff like this, but in person, in front of people, in front of younger creators of color. And we'd love to have you on board, man, speaking to some of these young creators.
Yeah, holla at me.
You're a real inspiration, bro. Really, really are. We're proud of you, man. So well done, man. Thank you for your time today, man. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thanks, brother.
See you later. Peace.